Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A. I filmed a garden tour yesterday, but didn't really talk about the stumps here that got ground out, so I thought I'd just tack this on to the video. Also, I noticed since yesterday this daffodil has opened, so that is cheerful. Yeah, they ground out the stumps of the two spruce trees that were taken out. My old garden bed I've laid it out so that it can be washed off in the rain that we're supposed to have tomorrow. And then I asked them to leave the chips here that I would use as mulch. It's also mixed with a lot of soil from the machine as it grinds way down. And they also got a bunch of the big surface roots. They got a lot out. So that's good. It's going to help fill in the holes that were left from where the stumps were. And I haven't completely spread it out. I'm not exactly sure what the plan is for this area in terms of mowing. I don't know. My idea was to either mulch. What I was hoping they did when they took down the trees was be able to dump the chips in my yard, but they didn't actually chip the logs on site. They just chipped the branches, which were all not great mulch. So they didn't dump anything. I was hoping they would come back later and dump a load of chips. But back along the fence here, I would like to plant a few more evergreens and kind of make maybe a little bit of a winding path. Obviously, you can't mow back here. It's hard to mow as is right now. So I was thinking I would take over because I also bought a new mattress this winter. So I have mattress cover and bed frame, everything. So I have a whole bunch of big, huge boxes and just been saving cardboard for years. So I thought I would just put cardboard and mulch, as I've done in many other garden beds, and turn it into a mulched area for now, but I'm hoping I can get some chips dropped for free. If you're in Minnesota and you've ever done the chip drop website or anything like that, let me know. Because that's a lot of money to buy a whole bunch of mulch for this area. I'd rather get something that's going to be disposed of for free. So, but that's my plan. I'd probably mulch up all of this space here and then make it just a big shade garden with kind of a path winding through it. I don't know. I have to noodle on the possibilities, I guess. So I just kind of left these piles as is. They stayed clear of the plants in the garden bed, so they're not the mulch isn't suffocating anything, so that's fine. The ground was still kind of wet from rain when they brought the machine back, so there are ruts in the yard. You can kind of see one here. Well, two of them. Partway through the yard. This yard is really uneven, though. It has not been maintained or leveled, I don't think, ever. And in this kind of climate, you get a lot of frost heave of the ground anyways because of the extreme temperatures and freeze-thaw cycles. So I kind of am focusing on building my gardens first, and then when I get that area all taken over, I don't want to spend a lot of time or money improving grass only to rip it out later and put in a garden bed. So just over time, kind of deciding what I want to do with the garden, and then we'll address the grass because it wasn't great to begin with. So yeah, I guess so. Those are my thoughts for today that I neglected to mention yesterday when I shot my video. So I will leave you with that and enjoy the garden tour. And I'll do just a quick update of what is going on over in this garden here. Shade situation from the trees gone at this time of year and this time of day really hasn't changed. We get a lot of shade from the neighbors' trees in their yard. So I'm hoping this will stay a mostly shade garden. And I may have to just adjust a couple plants, but we'll see as the sun gets higher later in the summer. This area was heavily trampled when they took down the 2 spruce trees. A lot of debris came down here, and they were walking through here clearing it all away. So, I was curious about what would come up. These are hardy geranium that are resprouting. Those are pretty tough as nails, hardy geraniums are. We've got some of this is a heuchera that was really heavily trampled coming back. The Virginia, I think it'll be fine. I even have a bloom on this one. It was kind of hiding under a leaf. I was excited when I found that yesterday. I cut back some of the messed up leaves, but it is sprouting new leaves. This little one, I don't know about that one. But I have at least 3 plants that I think are going to be fine. The lungwort, this is Trevi Fountain, and it is just chock full of bloom buds here. This one kind of blooms like a dark periwinkle cobalt color with a little bit of pink in it, pink blooms. Love this one. And it got looks a little rough, but it's fine. You can see the daffodils got trampled. I think some of the blooms are a little bit wonky, but they'll be good too. Not sure yet about this heuchera. It looks like it sprouted 1 leaf. I think these other ones that got trampled look like they're sprouting too. They also got eaten by rabbits. Be careful where I step. There's a hosta back here too. Most of my hosta are just barely starting to come up. This is a white bleeding heart, traditional bleeding heart. That wasn't bothered one bit. This is the Joe Pyeweed variety that I moved from directly under the trees to save it. And then I also have, I saw some sprouts. Yeah, there's some sprouts. This is a Sun King Aurelia. Thankfully, none of these really had emerged from the ground yet, so I think the crowns of the plants were fairly protected, even being walked on quite a bit. And thankfully, the guys, they worked so fast. It was really incredible how fast they cleared everything away. So it wasn't like all day long they were tromping over here. It was a fairly short period of time. The one thing I'm not sure about, though, and of course the most expensive plant in here is the hellebore. It was looking better. Well, maybe it is sprouting. I think I just have to give it time. I'm just going to keep it protected under this thing to give it shade and protect it from any hungry critters or digging critters. And we're just going to see if anything comes up. That one, of course, is the most expensive one that was out here and would be the most expensive to replace. But a little bit bummed because it was putting out buds, bloom buds, and those got completely just stomped. So those are gone. I had a hosta, the wee hosta from Proven Winners that's sprouting, and then a dicentra, as well, a different variety of bleeding heart over here. And it looks like everything's okay. These heuchera are, they're called Forever Purple. I see one of them is sprouting. I'm not sure about the other 2. But it's early yet. Like I said, time will tell. I did cut back the Hakanakloa grass. And we have a bunch of daffodils that are just ready to burst. Oh, I love this little patch of daffodils. It's so cheerful. But everything else is doing good. There's a Ligularia. I think this one is called Little Rocket. Coming up. Some tulips. These never get enough sun, so they've kind of petered out over the years. There's a hosta coming up over here somewhere too. I saw some sprouts. And then this is columbine coming back. Echinacea, I cut back. They're just barely starting to, they're always a little bit slower to emerge. This is a blue hosta, mystery blue hosta. That was a clearance plant. I'm sure that one will sprout just fine. And then my Ajuga chocolate chip was sort of encroaching on the daylilies, so I dug some of that up and gave it to a friend. I'll probably dig some more up and give it away as well. Nice thing about Hydrangea is it's really shallow rooted, and the plants are kind of all connected to each other. So at least in my experience, I found it pretty easy to dig up and move from where you don't want it, at least the types that I've planted. This is Helenium, I want to say, planted back there. Oh, I think I see a sprout from my weed. I do not remember what I planted here. I need to look back, but it's coming back. Planted that at the end of the season. So I have to look that up again on my previous videos. And then this is the Proven Winners. It's the hardy geranium. I want to say Dark Side of the Moon, but that's not it. That's the Astilbe. But like purple leaf geranium, and they get pretty big. I think everyone I've seen on YouTube who's planted those, they've grown bigger than what the tag says, so I gave it plenty of space. We've still got the allium. These are 4 Millennium allium coming up. Bee balm. That was a mystery clearance plant. I'm pretty sure it's Bubblegum Blast bee balm because it's hot pink. Looks just like it. And it was from Gertens, and I know that's one Gertens sells. I've got Angelina sedum, and then the 3 sort of gold chartreuse colored barberry are coming back. I don't remember what those are called either. I have the tag. I planted them too long ago, but they were clearance. They were $5 a piece. So we got a nice little cluster. These are Salvia caradana. I have 3, and it looks like I have another one that seeded itself. These seed themselves, but not prolifically. So I've given away some seedlings that I didn't have room for. We've got a Nepeta and the drops of Jupiter oregano coming back over here. I have a salvia. It's a blue sky blue, maybe. And then I'm really happy all of the Brunnera are coming back. So these are the Alexandra Brunnera, and I planted 4 of them on clearance. I did cut back my hydrangeas. I trimmed them. Everything's way ahead this year. You can already see buds swelling on the hydrangea. If you haven't gotten to it yet, don't worry about it. If you have panicle hydrangeas, they are super tough. So what I do, you want to cut down, actually I'll probably cut this branch a little bit. You want to leave all of the sturdy branches, the sturdiest parts with your panicle hydrangea. So I come down, I want to get some size on these. So, they'll have another branch and they'll keep branching out. I cut a couple of the junctions off to get down to the really sturdy ones. And this one I'll probably cut any skinny, slim branches like this. I went through this pretty fast and it was getting dark, so I didn't catch everything. Skinny branch like these, like this one, that one, it's just going to flop. It's not going to fatten up and get strong enough to hold your bloom. So you want to cut that off and let it send out a new branch. You want to keep the sturdiest branches because they can handle the weight of the blooms. And that's what's going to keep your panicle hydrangeas from flopping and from folding over when you get heavy rain. And then I go through the center, and any of these little branches, like all these little twigs down here, I'm going to go through again and cut all of those off. Because you want airflow. You want to maintain airflow through the center of the plant. Any branches that are crossing over and rubbing against another branch, that's going to cause a wound, which, like here, I'm going to cut off this branch because it's rubbing, I guess you can't see, it's rubbing up against this one. And this is the skinny little branch. But any kind of areas like that can infiltrate the bark of the shrub, that's where disease can get in, pathogens, insects, whatever that weakens the plant. Viburnum, I don't prune these because they bloom on old wood, which means they bloom on last year's growth. So they spend the summer before setting their bloom buds for the following year. that's old wood, is last year's growth. So if you come in the spring before it blooms and you prune it down, you're cutting off all of the buds that it formed last year, and it won't bloom again until the following year. So if you do, this goes for lilacs as well. If you do want to size control, or you need to prune viburnum or lilacs or anything else that blooms on old wood, wait until right after it is done blooming and then prune it back. If you don't want to lose blooms. Otherwise, if you're okay sacrificing blooms for that year, that's fine. North Pole Arborvitae is looking good, getting much bigger. Got another Brunnera down there. I did fertilize the Astilbe with a bloom fertilizer. I'm hoping they bloom this year. If they're in more shade and less stressed. Fingers crossed for less drought as well. And then I do have a raspberry splash lungwort over here, pulmonaria, that is about to burst into color as well. And more Brunnera and Heucherella. I did notice I planted this. This was a clearance. I have a bloom. This little clearance plant, hellebore, that I planted in the fall. So that one's doing good. It's a little droopy. It gets morning sun. In the heat of summer, when trees are leafed out, it gets a lot less sun. So I've got Jacob's Ladder sprouting. There's a hosta and a couple ferns in here. More Astilbe. Another viburnum. That one's budding out. I'm hoping these get stronger. Viburnum like more sun. They can handle shade, but they bloom more in the sun. So this is the pollinator pair to the one that's right over there. So I'm hoping I maybe get some blooms because they should bloom at the same time this year. I've got another Sun King Aurelia peeking up here. More bee balm, hydrangeas, the sage leaf willow, salvia. I've got yarrow, got all kinds of stuff. Spring is coming. This is a Walker's Low Nepeta. Don't be fooled by the name. It is not a short or petite plant by any means. It's one of the bigger Nepetas. So leave enough space for your Walker's Low. And this little sedum looks so cute too. Like that one. I put the brick there because the squirrels were digging. It's about the only thing that stops squirrels. I'm starting to get leaves. The buds are opening. Yay! Garlic is looking awesome. Back here. And in the raised bed. It's all coming up. I have a little sprout over here. So I planted mainly in the middle because I figured it would be more insulated. I did plant some extra garlic kind of around the edge, just to test. I just wanted to see if it would sprout along the edge of the bed or if it would freeze out. And so far, no sprouts. So I think that's my lesson. I can plant in the raised bed, but it'll have to be a little further away from the edges. Same with even this edge. You know, I had planted a row along the back, and none of them have sprouted yet, but the ones closer to the center have. So note to self. And then we installed, did a video on this, we installed the other raised bed. So I'm psyched to be able to plant in that. I did put this on. I'm going to wait till it gets cold. I'm going to come out here on a cold day and cut this. So it's a little more retracted, shorter, whatever. If it's going to shrink at all, I would rather cut it on a cold day when it's more shrunken. So, but nice thing is you get extra edging in case you need to patch any areas. And then I'm just going to let a strawberry patch grow in here. My plan is to get a couple more round beds to kind of go sort of at the entrance there and maybe one somewhere back here. But we'll see. I'm just going to see how these do this year, and then I'm not going to make any big decisions. I do have the Daisy May Daisy coming up. It looks like half the plant died off, but it'll do just fine. Won't even notice by the time it's up. This daylily, I thought it was getting, you see how it's all twisted? We'll see how it does. Maybe that's just from the cold or pushing up through the mulch because the rest of the stems look okay. Daylilies can get something that's called spring sickness. Doesn't harm the plant. They don't have any idea what causes it. There are a few possible causes, but really nobody quite knows. All it does is deform the foliage a little bit. Doesn't harm the plant. Plant does just fine. It just kind of looks a little deformed. And it can happen one year and randomly and then not again. So one of my daylilies last year had that, and eventually it just keeps pushing out new foliage and either covers or I trimmed away that kind of weird twisted looking stuff. So if you see that, don't worry. We've got the aster. The azalea's all budded up. The ornamental allium, and then these tulips are about to open too. If, like I said, if the squirrels and or rabbits, I suppose, don't get to them. I really need to cut back the Shenandoah grass here. I had cut back one. That one's always really late grass to emerge. And then I do have a clematis back here that I cut back. That one's pretty big. It's a few years old now. I should really get a bigger trellis, but I'm hoping I can snatch one on clearance at the end of the season. I had no luck last fall because those suckers are expensive, man. Stuff is expensive. I'm on a budget. This coreopsis. Wow, that's gotten pretty big. That was an unlabeled clearance plant. I think it looks just like Zagreb, however you say that. Pretty sure that's what that one is. This was a Dusty Miller. I don't think it's going to resprout. I've had some Dusty Miller come back and resprout from the roots. So we'll see. Still no action on the summerific hibiscus, but those are pretty slow to come back. We do have the luminary opalescent phlox here. And then these are the night embers sedum. I am just waiting to cut these back. I have a couple sedum stems, even though they're sprouting, because, and same thing with the stems on that hibiscus, because just in case any insects or eggs are still overwintering, that's sort of a refuge for beneficial insects and eggs overwinter. I don't want to cut them too early. They say it's best to wait until it's consistently 50 degrees outside. And we still have, probably by the beginning of May, I'll cut them back because we still have some cold temperatures. Beautiful Anna's Magic Ball, Arbovita. This one stays very petite. Oh, looks like a dead branch. I'll trim that off. It only gets about 2 feet by 2 feet, just this little globe. These are my favorite daylilies. I'm not the biggest fan of daylilies, but these blooms are so prolific. It's worth the ugly foliage. I just don't like foliage, but the blooms are gorgeous. Those are South Seas, those three. That one is a little bit younger. I had bought the first two on clearance and then was waiting to snatch up another one at some point. This is the Noblessa Yarrow, and I can see it has really started to spread out, so I'll probably come at least pull these up that are encroaching on the daylily. But this one is just so low maintenance. And I'm going to put a better cage up so that it doesn't tip over. There's a ground cover sedum and lemon jade sedum. Thankfully, the rose bush that got pruned by bunnies is completely leafing out. It's a shrub rose, and they are super tough, so we'll just see what size it gets to. And I still need to trim that hydrangea. And then the daffodils started opening, so that's exciting. I have those beautiful yellow coronas that are kind of ruffly and really open with the white petals. I have no idea what variety they are. I just wait to buy stuff when it goes on clearance. I don't really care what kind of daffodil it is. I'm not a connoisseur. I just think they're all pretty, so I just plant whatever I can get. And I don't really pay attention to the variety. So sorry if you're wondering, but look how pretty. Foxglove coming back, and we've got a new type of Veronica that's supposed to be more mildew resistant. And then I have an Echinacea you can see these are kind of the last things to come up, but these are planted in the fall. We've got that one, and then this one I wasn't sure, but I did just find a sprout. So they're both coming back. And then I need to put up cages around all three of these as well. These are goldenrod, dwarf goldenrod, and those two sticks kind of sticking up it's a lily called After Eight, an oriental lily. This is another phlox from Proven Winners, blanking on the name completely. You know, it's an opening act. I think it's a pink one. They tend to bloom before other phlox. And then I planted 4 cat's pajamas nepida in here that are sprouting. Also a tough as nails plant. We got more of those purple blooms. I did find the tag, but now I'm forgetting what they're called. They're bulb. Could not tell you the botanical name. I can't pronounce it. I want to say Glory of the Snow is the variety. This is the, I need to cut that branch. See how those two are touching and rubbing? That'll cause a wound, so I'm going to cut this one off. That is the Limelight Prime Hydrangea. And it's going to get big. I think I left this space open so I can bump it out a little bit further, because I also want to move that hosta, where you can see sort of the old bloom stalks sticking up behind the daffodils. I think I'm going to move that and plant a blue juniper kind of in that space. So, crocuses are done blooming now, but I did notice this is a, what are those called? I forgot I planted those. Not snake plant. What is it called? Fritillaria, I think. Where the texture of the bloom kind of looks a little bit like snake skin. Pretty sure it's Fritillaria. Then I have some petite daffodils that I can see are pushing up blooms in here too. It's kind of, it's kind of fun when you don't pay attention to what you plant, and then you just are surprised when it comes up. So the chokeberry is really putting out a lot of new growth. So I think that one's going to be, it's like more of a low edging chokeberry. So I think that one's going to be good. And I'm going to have some more lungwort over here. We'll see. This area might get more sun than it used to with those trees gone. But there is a lungwort coming up back over there. A couple daffodils about to open down here. I am pleased that this heucherella, this area also got trampled quite a bit, but that one's coming back. Another lungwort over here. This one was a mystery. It was in the clearance section out in the full sun in the middle of July, just withering away out at a nursery. Excuse me. So I had to rescue it. And then you can see all the little sprouts. This is all Solomon seal coming up here. That just kind of slowly spreads itself around. And I have a lot more, looks like kind of bare spots in here, maybe because we didn't have snow cover, but I have a lot more bugleweed or ajuga in here. But I'm very pleased. I forgot that I had planted this Brennera in the fall, so that was fun to see. We've got a little jam coming up. And then my little patch of Jacob's Ladder, 3 of them. And that is also a clematis called, it's a really popular purple one. That's everywhere. I do not remember. And we'll pass through. Put it in the comments, or maybe you just know. All these white tags that I have, those are hostas that I planted in the fall. And then another Brennera. And I pruned back, so these are the 3 Bobo hydrangeas. I pruned these back pretty hard because they were transplanted. I wanted to get them down to really sturdy material. I don't care if they get very big this year. They're going to get more sun, so hopefully they'll do better. But these were really branching out. I pruned back all the junctions until I got to a really sturdy junction. I'll probably come in and clean it up a little bit more. I at least got the initial one done. This one I think I need to prune back a lot harder. You can see it's much smaller. This one I just planted last year. So it had really long stems last year. And I don't want it to just keep doing long stems that then fall over. I want it to spread out and start branching more. So I'll encourage that by giving it a hard prune. Even though it'll be smaller this year, it'll pay off in the long run. We've got sedum and geum coming up here. 2 geum. That is I always forget it. It starts with a D. Why do I forget that name of that plant? Probably because it's right next to this dicentra, which I wasn't sure if that would come back, but it is. I don't remember if these bloom pink or red, the 2 dicentra that I think the one in the back blooms pink. This one might be red, I'm not sure. Dianthus. That's what that one is, Dianthus. I need to trim back this heuchera. And we've got a ton more, whole lot of foliage popping through on the Kinsley's Ghost honeysuckle. Leaf. I tried to rake up, because this had aphids last year, I tried to rake up as much of the leaf material as I could in case there were any eggs overwintering. So we'll see. But man, look at how it's going to be really glorious this year. I do trim off the long stems just to size control it a little to make it easier to walk through here without obstruction. And then we've got sedum. Again, I'm waiting to trim these back a couple weeks just till we're past the cold weather. This one was newly planted and it didn't really have any bloom stalks, but it's really popping right now. I always have alyssum seed itself in here, so I just let it go. Let it do its thing. And then I did have one little piece of that Hydrangea that got fungal disease and died off last year, but there is one little piece, so hopefully I will still have Hydrangea here. We've got another opening act phlox. We'll see how these heuchera do. These 2 are called zipper, and usually they've been pretty sturdy. Some varieties don't last very long, but these have been doing well. So, oh yeah, this one has. Yep, that one's sprouting. I just need to clean up the dead stuff. These 2 phlox I have to dig up. I think I'm going to give them away instead of moving them. I did dig out some of the creeping Jenny from this area to size control it, but not all of it. I'll have to get after it a little bit more. I cleaned up the lamb's ear. Really, all I do is I go through with my fingers and just kind of rake out as much of the dead leaves as I can get. If I rip off a few healthy leaves, that's fine. This plant is really sturdy and spreads really easily, so and then it kind of sends up new buds and new shoots and starts looking fresh again. It's super soft. We've got the 2 ladies mantle coming up, and that heuchera is even hanging on down there. Crocuses over here are done, but we've got blooms coming up on the tulips. Which way? I'm like right in the shadows, right in the sun. So some blooms starting. And that ligularia is looking like it doesn't want to be in the sun right now. I did prune back pretty hard. I pruned out some big branches from this dogwood. I have to come back in and prune the tall branches back some more, but when I pruned that, it's anything that's really woody. The older branches you can tell because they get more woody and barky looking. Like this one, I pruned off 2 big branches from there. There's a couple on the back side, so all of these barky woody stems are the old branches. You can trim those all off. I don't want to because I kind of like having it big. I just want to size control it a little bit. So I'll just do a few every year. Got St. John's wort. All of these little purple, this is St. John's wort, wasn't even looking at it. All of these little purple plants kind of dotted throughout. Those are beard tongue, or penstemon. I don't remember the variety. I bought the original plants so long ago. But they self-seed. I leave the bloom stalks up, and they just kind of nicely self-seed around. They're really easy to dig out if they land somewhere I don't want them, but just letting them do what they want over here. And then I have some Leatris, Kobold, I think, a couple of those. So those they're a little bit slow to sprout, but they'll come up pretty fast eventually. And then the 9 bark is all covered in blooms. I don't really need to size control this, so I'm not going to prune it unless I see any dead branches, maybe things that are crossing over. You want to be careful about pruning these. You can see how it has this like arching shape to the branches. Sort of that graceful, arched look to it. If you prune every end of these branches every year, you're going to ruin that shape. So you want it to plant it in a spot that it can grow to its full size without having to be pruned and size controlled every year. But you can selectively prune branches, which is what I've done. You can go in and like prune out a third of the branch, but generally you want to prune the whole branch, not just sort of top it off. So you want to take what you want to prune out, take it all the way back to the base of the plant, and then leave the fresh growth to fill in, and it will kind of arch over as it grows as well. So I don't think I need to do that this year. That is a tiny wine 9 bark. Beautiful dark purple foliage in the summer. Dark green, dark purple. No, it is purple in the sun. It stays more green in the shade if it gets more shade. Performs really well. It's so low maintenance. If you plant a 9 bark where it can just get to its full size, you barely have to touch it. So, highly recommend. So, that is it. I guess that was longer updates than I expected, but so many things are waking up and coming to life. So, hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, one extra thing. I just noticed this tulip started to open. So that's exciting. Very nice. And those 2 are all budded up over there too. Little pink tulips. Last year I think the critters ate all but maybe one of these tulips. I forgot they were even pink. Yay! Also, the raspberry splash is starting to show color. It'll be open in the next couple of days.